from DetroitLions.com, and with the NFL draft approaching, we figured we'd check in with the other teams around the division to see what is going on with their teams and what needs they have in this upcoming NFL draft. So first off today, we are going to check in with the Minnesota Vikings. So we are bringing in Eric Smith from the Vikings. Eric, tell us, what are the Vikings' needs in this upcoming draft?
Yeah, hey Tori, thanks for having me. There's certainly a few of them. It's been a busy off season here in Minnesota. We gave Kirk Cousins a contract extension, but the most notable thing is that we've had some departures. Linval Joseph and Xavier Rhodes are gone. So I'd put cornerback probably at the top of the list. We also traded Stephon Diggs, so wide receiver is certainly a need. Offensive line is always sort of a need in Minnesota. We've kind of been plugging away at that for a couple of years now. And then cornerback as well. I think that's definitely a position to keep an eye on.
All right, you guys have 2 picks in the first round. You're picking at 22 and 25. Tell me some names that are in the mix for the Vikings at those spots.
Yeah, I think like most of us, we've kind of combed through the mock drafts of late in the last couple of weeks. Denzel Mims and Justin Jefferson, those are 2 wide receivers that people are kind of popular, kind of linking to Minnesota. And cornerbacks, Christian Fulton out of LSU, and then Trevon Diggs, actually. So Stephon's brother. That'd kind of be a unique thing here in Minnesota. And then offensive tackle. So Josh Jones out of Houston and Austin Jackson out of USC. Those are just a couple names that have kind of been floated here to the Vikings.
All right, thank you so much, Eric, for that insight. Let's turn the page now to the Packers. Joining me from the Packers is Mike Spofford. Mike, what do you think the Packers are going to be looking for when that draft comes around?
Well, it's interesting, Tori, because the Packers have made 2 signings in free agency: inside linebacker Christian Kirksey, offensive tackle Rick Wagner from the Lions. But I don't think those signings take those positions off the table as far as the early stages of the draft. I still think the Packers will look to the future for the inside linebacker and offensive tackle positions. So those are definitely possibilities. The other is to get some more weapons for Aaron Rodgers as far as wide receivers and tight ends. The Packers looking to add to Devontae Adams and an emerging Allen Lazard at wide receiver. They're hoping Jace Sternberger, the young tight end from last year, comes on strong, but Jimmy Graham has now moved on to Chicago. So potentially a lot of changes in those perimeter weapons for Rodgers.
All right, we're all keeping an eye on those mock drafts this time of year. So tell me what names are on the table for the Packers with that 30th pick in the first round.
Well, I think what you see most often is either a inside linebacker or a wide receiver. And I think the Packers would love to have an opportunity at inside linebacker to get either, say, Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma or Patrick Queen from LSU. Some mock drafts have those guys falling all the way to 30. A lot of them do not have those guys getting there. At wide receiver, all kinds of names out there. They're talking about this being such a deep draft at wide receiver. So whether you're talking Justin Jefferson from LSU, Jalen Reagor from TCU, all kinds of guys that I could rattle off that both in the first round and at the end of the second round when the Packers would pick again, a lot of those wide receivers will definitely be available.
Well, if it is indeed a wide receiver, the Lions will have to be on the lookout for him because any guy catching passes from Aaron Rodgers is a threat. Let's move on now finally to the Chicago Bears. Larry Mayer joins us from the Bears. Larry, the Bears have no first round picks this year, but they've got 2 second-rounders there. How do you even prepare to know what the Bears might do in this draft when you're not preparing for a first-rounder?
Well, Tor, it's very difficult, and it's the same situation as last year because, as I'm sure you know, the Bears traded 2 first-round picks for Khalil Mack. I think everyone in Chicago is happy with that trade, but you're right. It makes kind of predicting the draft very difficult. The Bears picked number 43 and number 50, and when you always hear GMs say best man available, that's probably what they're looking for because they did solve some needs in free agency in terms of addressing some positions. Number 1 being the quarterback acquisition of Nick Foles. Also, they signed Jimmy Graham at tight end, Robert Quinn as a pass rusher. Those are the areas that mostly were the consensus in need. So this will really give some flexibility where general manager Ryan Pace will be able to pick the best available player.
Are there any holes left open? Anything that you can look at this draft and say with those second rounders, I think they might lean towards this position or another one?
Well, just by going off of what Matt Nagy, the coach, and Ryan Pace, the general manager, have said publicly, mostly at the combine, the positions that they mentioned there, where they talked about improving tight end, like I said, everybody knew they were going to bring a quarterback in. And the one other position that they mentioned about being a need and needing to upgrade was offensive line. Now, they have added one guy in Jermaine Ifedi from Seattle, but offensive line is always a position that you want to upgrade, and bolster and increase the depth and competition. So that could be a possibility. But again, like I said before, I don't think like if they're going to reach to get an offensive lineman, there's several different positions that would interest them at 43 and 50. The interesting thing to me is that Ryan Pace has done a lot of trading up in the draft over the years. So will he try to package those two picks and move up? Will he try to trade down and get an additional pick? Like I'm not sure if you mentioned, but the Bears don't have a pick in the first round, the third round, or the fourth round because they traded their compensatory fourth round pick to Jacksonville for Nick Foles. So it may be interesting to see how Ryan Pace operates this year in the draft. Like I said, normally he likes to trade up, but we'll see if he wants to trade down and get some more picks.
Well, we are looking forward to the draft at the end of April to see how all of this plays out. Really good insight from those three reporters around the division. We appreciate their time, and stay tuned to DetroitLions.com for more coverage as we head into the draft.